here to link it to all platforms, and we'll get started. I'm really stoked for today's episode. We have two master coaches here. So if you are watching live, feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat. If you're watching afterwards, send either of us a message. I'll put the information later on. We love to connect people and help out. So give a second here to sync up, and we'll get started. And we're set. So we're good to go.
All
Okay,
right.
so we'll get started here. Okay. So welcome back to Coach Connect. Here's where we explore the stories and strategies and insights from trailblazers who are transforming the coaching and well-being. What drives success and what fuels their passion for helping others. We're here to uncover their secrets and share them with you. This show is brought to you by Viably.io, the all-in-one coaching platform designed to empower coaches with tools, resources, and support they need to thrive and help their meaningful, lasting growth. I'm Dr. Diego Salinas, your guide on this journey. As a neuroscientist, physician, and health coach, and co-founder of Viably, I'm committed to celebrating the incredible work of coaches everywhere and helping them unlock their full potential. So together, let's dive in deep into what makes coaching a powerful force of change. Today we have two guests. So first guest, Brian Williams, with nearly 25 years of coaching and almost 10,000 direct client hours. Brian Williams brings unmatched depth and breadth to his coaching profession. He's certified in multiple areas, including life, executive, relationship, spiritual, health and wellness, and financial coaching. For 16 years, Brian worked with Fortune 25 companies, serving as lead coach, director of coaching, and ultimately vice president of coaching and operations. He helped launch 3 new businesses under the parent company, each still operating today and impacting more than 1 million people. Brian has built and led multiple coaching businesses, developed high-performing teams, and overseen departments of nearly 200 coaches. For nearly 10 years, he's been an instructor at the Institute of Life Coach Training, teaching foundation courses, core competencies, and Christian-based classes. He's also the author of over a dozen books and the creator of the influential Philosophy of Behavior Change framework, used by professionals worldwide. Outside of work, Brian's a devoted husband to Claudia for 27 years, proud dad of 9-year-old Ellie, and dog dad Kevin. They're Cavapoo. So do I have. You might hear in the back touching the door. He does traveling, sports, and playing pickleball. And then our second awesome master coach guest today is Jonathan Armel. Jonathan Armel brings over a decade of coaching experience with certifications in life, executive, and Christian coaching, as well as Ziegler coaching. At a Fortune 25 company, he quickly became the top performing coach among a team of more than 150 coaches. His skill and leadership led him into roles of coach mentor and coach trainer, where he developed advanced training and mentoring programs, including an NBHWC-approved training program. Jonathan has taught at the Institute for Life Coach Training, help coaches achieve their ACC, PCC, and board certifications. Jonathan is passionate about helping others unlock their full potential, pushing coaches not to meet standards, but exceed them. Off the clock, Jonathan's husband of 19 years to Pamela, proud dad of Joseph, 13, and Chloe, 10, and is outdoors, mountain biking, and leading the local Scout troops. Brian and Jonathan, welcome to the episode, and so honored to have both of you as tremendous coaches on at one time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to be here. Thank you, Diego.
Yeah, I just read your wonderful bios, which is what a peak of the iceberg to your guys' career. But we usually start the episode kind of going behind the curtains, your passions, right? You got this long careers of really helping others. What really started this journey for you guys to coaching and supporting others in their professional and personal well-being?
Yeah, I can kick it off. How's that? And then John, you go. It's really an interesting background because I've always been an entrepreneur. So I went to school to learn accounting and management and economics. So my first about 10 years was in the business world. But I found out early on that I had some major struggles myself. I actually got to the place where I was either going to kill myself or take drugs. And I had to do a complete transformation. And so long story short, ended up on the beach one day and said, what do I do? Kill myself or take drugs? Because I'm miserable. And I was actually successful. I wasn't unsuccessful. I was like, I'm just going to get more of this. So ultimately, I found God and I realized I'd turn everything over. In the process, I also found a guy named Zig Ziglar. And so I would read his books and he would encourage me. I was like, I've never felt anything like this. It was really motivating. helping me start to change my own life. Interestingly, in the process, I had taken this personality test. I was dating this girl, and it literally said I can do nothing. And it was the worst thing I ever read. And it said, Diego, it literally said he can't lead people, he can't sell, he can't speak, he can't. And I thought, what is my life going to be? And what I heard in my head was, this is who you are, but it's not who I made you to be. So I continued in the financial field, but I didn't even think about this intentionally, but over the next almost 10 years, I did everything it said I couldn't do. I acted in plays, I did sales, I led sales teams. And I thought, and I looked back on that report and I thought, how many people are living lies? How many people don't know their own purpose and are not fulfilling it? And I want to help them the way Zig Ziglar helped me. So at the time, he spoke for this big organization called Get Motivated Seminars. And I called them. I was living in California. They're in Florida. I said, I want to come be a speaker. They said, you're not going to be a speaker. You don't even know who you are, but you can come work in the coaching division. 25 years ago, I said, what is coaching? I didn't even know what coaching was. But I went there. And so they started me helping enroll people into coaching. I wasn't a coach. Worked my way up to a coach, worked my way up to the manager and then director. But I was introduced to coaching when it was brand new and people didn't even understand the term. And it was a wild world, but I knew I wanted to help people change and find and live their full purpose.
Wow, that is both a powerful and really succinct, powerful story. I gotta learn from you, Brian. To go from a place in the nadir of low in your life, and I think it's a great point you bring out there that things can look fine on the outside. We could be doing really well on the outside, but it's not necessarily an indicator what's going on the inside. And you want to make sure that you can help people, whatever the outside look like. We're all probably going through something always, right? And how to take that next step and have tools not limit you, but actually adapt to you instead and help you get to your best potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Jonathan, if you want to give us your kind of your background, what ignited this passion for helping others for you?
Absolutely. So, I've been in teaching for most of my adult career. I was a martial arts instructor for almost a decade. And then I went back to school, got a master's in education, just had a heart for kids and just having an impact, just being a positive role model. And I did that for a couple years and, just got really burnt out and was, struggling with my own mindset, dealing with anxiety. And, it's something I had struggled with in the past. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I was introduced to coaching, and as I had an opportunity to just really pour into others' lives and help them transformed, I was transforming along the way as well. And that's just the beauty and such the powerful thing about coaching is it's interdevelopmental. I'll be coaching somebody and realize, wow, I really need to work on that myself. And so I just have a really just a passion for people that are hurting, that want to change, that want a better future. And it's just been a passion for me for over the last 13 years since I've been in coaching. And now, I get the great honor of working with coaches so they can make that impact as well, and just change lives. And so that's the beautiful thing about coaching is you never can stop learning. I have never stopped learning. I've never stopped working on myself. And it's what I love about coaching. And so that's kind of my story and I'm sticking to it.
It's really, as in some ways, while each of us have a different story, there's often this a personal experience that we see and we don't want to keep it to ourselves and noticing how hard it could be to be so low. And you said there, Jonathan, that, there's so much to learn. To me, we're looking at the human experience ultimately in coaching. And how can you have one model that summarizes all of that? So there's always a constant evolution. It's always changing because each of us is unique in writing a new human experience that's never been written before. But we have to come out of those lows and those highs and that really wanting to help your fellow human, right? Your fellow brother and sister, what it is to like to go through this world and this life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm curious, seeing you guys, to go trailblazers, right? You with a famous saying, I can see so far standing on the shoulders of giants, right? You guys mentioned Brian starting when started, people didn't know what coaching was. I'd argue we're still have a way to go, but clearly a huge progress we've made as industry. But I'm curious with you guys seeing all the change in the field. Maybe not be a silly question, but how do you guys define coaching? People who've never heard of it. I think it's such a hard thing to describe until you experience it. So, how would you approach that question to someone who's never done it before? And and then I'll follow my next question up later on, not stack them up.
Want to go, John?
Yeah, I would say it's a transformational conversation that leads to change and gives people a way forward to move forward to their dreams and what they've always wanted in life and how they want to show up and be, would be my definition.
And I would just add, it's a partnership. It's not a client-patient relationship. We're partnered together for them. They're the expert of their lives. I'm not there to become an expert of their life. I'm there to guide in the coaching process and learn about them. But the answers don't come from the coach. It comes from them. And it's a partnership. And a lot of people don't have somebody they can talk to, somebody they trust. It's really powerful to have a partnership. You can literally open up about anything, and the person you're working with is there for you, not just your goals and not certain things to achieve. It's not about achievement. It's about who they are. So that's how
it's not the angle, it's for that process where that self-acquisition happens, right? It's and that partnership, Brian, I always say to my clients or would be clients, it's a partnership. You're the expert yourself, I'm the expert in behavior change.
Yeah.
There's no way that I can know you better than yourself. Even spend an hour a week with you, there's still so many hours I don't see you. How many decades have we have? Now, I say knowing yourself isn't an easy job either. It's a tough job. Something that we're constantly doing. It's an evolving process. But this, and you mentioned being there for someone. I also people listen. We're there for you in a different way your friends and family are. You need friends and family, but we're here in a non-judgmental partnership, right? Because friends and family, in a good way, they have a judgment. They do want certain things for you. They have their biases. That's why we go for their biased opinions. But coaching is a realm to just be yourself with the person who's there purely to get your best interests and what your goals are without putting in their own flavor part of the equation as much as we can.
Yeah.
But I even add to that, Diego, it's helping them figure out what their vision, what their goals are. Some people don't even know that part. And your friends and your family can say, here's what I think you should do. And it could be way far from where your heart is, where your talents are. So coaching literally helps you figure out who you are, what you want, and then some of the goals to get there.
Yeah. If I could add on to that, my mentor, Tom Ziegler, has said it's a healthy balance between empathy and accountability. And so we have that when we show up with empathy, but yet there's still this accountability where no matter what, we're going to stand for our clients' goals, and we're going to ask the hard questions. We're going to share what we're noticing to bring more awareness, and ultimately the client's up at choice. But Tom also talks about sharing the truth with love. And that's what we do in coaching. We have that close partnership where there's that trust and safety, where your client knows that you stand for them and what they want, and you're going to help them to get there no matter what.
Yeah, I'm thinking really the phrase coming to mind is that we have that unconditional positive regard for our clients, and that balancing empathy with accountability, right? People say, I think tough love's not the right phrase there, but you're right that when we are honest with it really reminds me of, as you both are saying the story, in some way it's something similar how in medicine, sometimes you do something you want to do, it's not pleasant, but it's best for that person. Yeah. Right? It's not pleasant to draw blood from someone, from a little kid who's screaming, but we know we have to. And so my tend to listen, you have to at some point do stuff that may seem hard at the moment, but it's for ultimately that person's well-being. And I've had a lot of friends who are therapists, and they mentioned people nowadays don't always give feedback. They ghost people instead. And we don't have that feedback cycle help us, adapt. And it's really an act of generosity to give someone compassionate feedback. And if I could give a most recent example, honestly coming to mind, a former student of mine came to one of my live demos. I trained her years ago, and she heard on the platform, and I'm showing the demo, and she had a lot of questions, which was great. I welcomed them. But at some point, I also recognized this is an avoidance mechanism. And so I assumed, right? But I checked. I said during this, I was like, can I pause you? And it felt a little, I was like, oof, I don't want to put her on a spot, but my job is to do the best for her, right? Give her actual. And I said, can I be frank with you? I think that, you're asking questions what happens 3 years in the future, and you don't even know what your mission statement is. I was like, your clients, you wouldn't create the steps for 2029 while we're still in 2026, right? I think, frankly, you're putting off getting started for some, I kind of held my breath a little bit. And then she paused, looked at the camera. She goes, you're right.
Yeah. And that's such a good point too, Diego, is as a coach, you need to be at a place where you're not concerned about being right though, too. You're simply just to share what you've noticed. And if they don't agree, you move on, but they're going to think about it. And our job as coaches, at least at a masterful level, is just to pick up things, the nuances, the shifts in energy, the shift in their emotions, and share that so that it can be truly transformational as they take in and understand, what's going on in their world, what their situation's like, and what they really want instead.
Yeah.
Based on trust.
Brian, sorry to cut you off. A little lag there. Please go ahead, Brian.
That's okay. Sorry. Maybe I'll take a step back. So how does all this happen? It's based on your arrangement, your relationship, which is trust and safety, right? If you built this relationship based on trust and safety, and they completely trust you, you trust them, then you can share things from the heart that are not offensive. They don't land the wrong way because they know you're there really for them. You're bringing things up for them to consider. And we as coaches, we're always curious. And so we bring things up and it curious, what does this mean? What's happening? But we're not judgmental. And so when they feel that trust and safety and they know who you are and you want the best for them, you can share some of these things that other people would never share with them.
Yes, that's I think anything with health and well-being, to me, transparency equals trust and safety, right? And we've discussed before the importance of privacy, whether digital or in person. I tell people, listen, if you're trusting with your thoughts, you are trusting with your brain. That is the most important organ. I don't have a scalpel here, but what we're going to do is affecting your brain, right? I don't need to physically touch it to touch what's going on inside of here. And so there's a tremendous responsibility we're getting to create that space of physical, psychological safety and trust. And when that rapport is established, then people know that the things you're doing are purely, you're exploring curiously for their best interests. And I think the way, thinking from the neuroscience background, I think it's kind of an interesting paradox as human beings that we're just pattern beings, right? We learn by patterns, right? We pick up quickly. We see patterns in others so often, right? Oh, there goes mom being mom again, or whatever, right? Or there goes my Yet we're so relatively blind to some of our own patterns in the moment. And I think coaching really is like holding that mirror to someone, and you holding the mirror non-judgmentally. It's like, hey, do you like what you see?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's up to you. You're the one wearing the suit or wearing the piece of garment. Do you like it or not? We're just holding the mirror. And in a curious way, it's not judging. Like if she told me no, I am actually curious. Cool. I do believe them on those questions. I don't question their answer.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's our obligation to bring some of those things up when we go.
Yeah. And you mentioned also too this kind of masterful coach here. And since I have two master coaches in front of me, right? And you guys know I'm really passionate about coach education. I'm curious if we could talk about like what you see. I have two kind of sides of the question. One is the industry changing, but I want to talk about coaches and their progression. So I'm curious, what you've seen as changes, maybe better and or for worse, in industry since it's happening. And maybe I'll do one question at a time. Try to work on that.
Yeah, Brian, you want to start?
Well, I think the industry, what's really exciting and also a little scary is AI, right? The biggest thing happening, because you can literally punch things into AI and get answers. It doesn't mean they're right answers. It doesn't mean it's there for you. So there's always been this discussion back and forth. Can AI and technology take the place of coaches? And what I would say is, in my philosophy of behavior change, there's a piece in there that's extremely important, which is accountability, right? And so could you even have technology hold you accountable? Potentially, but it's not going to have a conversation with you to say, hey, I noticed you, I didn't see you do this thing, or I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And that empathy, the relationship to catch it. And so to catch when people start to slip, catching it early within the first couple of weeks, and be there and personally talk through things. So if I'm on an app and I'm just deciding I'm not going to log in my weight anymore, the app could all day long push me notifications. Who cares? But if my coach, if my trust calls me and says, how are things going? We can work through it. And so I think there are great tools that we can and do use to get that relationship is so important outside of it.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Brian. And just that topic of AI, I know it's all coaches are kind of like, what's going to happen with this? How can we use this? You know, is it going to take over? And I think you're absolutely right, Brian. And just the human experience, we need human connection.
Yeah.
Right. And that's never going to go away. And the way that I see, you know, if coaches want to take advantage of AI, there's apps out there that you can use it to capture your notes.
Sure.
And what that allows you to do as a coach is be even more present, to be paying attention to those subtleties and noticing what's happening, not just what your client is saying, but what's happening in them as you listen to them, and be able to share that rather than having your head down trying to take voracious notes and you may miss something. So to me, I feel like that's a huge advantage of what's coming with technology, is the ability for coaches to capitalize on that and use AI to do some of the work that they normally would have to do, but it's going to allow them to be more present. So that's a big one.
Yeah, that's definitely a hot topic now, and I agree with the both sides' perspective, right? That there's just, I think there's a fear a lot of the new coaches, well, I'm going to be replaced by the machines. And if you look at medical history, it's not the first time in history people try to replace the human connection with something else.
Yeah.
I say AI is a really fancy worksheet. It's a really fancy instruction manual, right? But the reality, I think people, and this is myself also included before I did coaching, right? We, as well, we love teaching, all teachers, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big nerd, so I love learning and getting that aha moment. I was like, oh, if I can teach someone the aha moment of why this mechanism is happening, that's the key to like them having the change to happen, right? It makes sense but I say knowledge is necessary but not sufficient.
Yeah.
And I think the really common example we can all think about it, I say, have you ever seen someone smoke a cigarette in your life? Ever seen someone, has anyone gone, emphysema, cancer? I have no idea. Right? I know going through the drive-through is not the greatest thing for me. Right? And so I think that there's this AI can tell you what to do all day long. But to your point, we're so hardwired for human connection. To not use this tool. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's such a powerful, powerful, powerful tool for motivation, for connection. I mean, all of health and well-being, the biggest study at Harvard is the quality of social connections. And point, Brian, you can snooze your alarm or know your calendar. Or even if you get good advice from the AI, that sounds really cool. But when you put your phone down, that doesn't linger with you. I say human connectors linger after the episode. I mean, when I met both of you guys, I had a little spring myself for the next hour, like talking about it, right? I say you go on a good date, you're kind of happy, or a bad date, right? It affects you past that experience. Digital things tend to be out of sight, out of mind. You're not concerned about, oh, my email is backing up, let me close it up. And to reflect Jonathan's point, these tools, I think all of it we do, I saw you burn out a lot, research is me search, right? And one oversimplified view is it's a ratio of what you like doing, what you don't like doing.
Yeah, that's true.
When I was in med school, there was a study or residency. I remember my first year, I read a study that said first year interns in residency spend 70% of their time interfacing with the electronic medical records.
Wow. Yeah.
Not even like, why don't we just use Scribe? And that's why I was burnt out, because I didn't come here to sit at my computer till 1 p.m. and then see someone. Right. So how can these things be helpful to the stuff we don't like doing? Pay more attention to those subtle clues. And I'm going to throw one thing from the conversation here is that when we reflect as coaches, you don't have to know what the answer is. You don't have to
That's
judge what's happening. You don't say, you sound more anxious. Be like, your tone shifted.
That's right.
Yep.
It's really important to pick all that up. Yeah. And maybe can I share a true story about the importance of the relationship? So actual person, I'll call him Tony. It's not his real name, but years ago I was coaching Tony, and he was actually making really good progress. So he was in losing weight. So he started exercising, started eating better. We were on a track for a couple of months, every week meeting. And he had lost 30 pounds or something at that point in a few months. And then I couldn't get a hold of him. And so I kept following up every week for several weeks. It was about 6 weeks later, and he finally picked up. And he said, I wanted to at least let you know what's going on. Now, if this was an app or something, he would just turn it completely off. But he said, Brian, my nephew had lost his dad, so he came to live with me. And he's 21 years old. And he was out with his friends at a bar 6 weeks ago and got shot. And he got shot and killed. And I said, Tony, I'm so sorry to hear this. And it still gives me chills. I said, I'm here to help you. We don't need to coach about anything health and wellness. Got him connected with a great counselor. We started coaching again. And I ended up going to a video to his house, his home, Ohio, to shoot a video about this story. But it's because of the relationship we had. And that relationship brought us back to where I could help him continue to move forward. And then he thrived. And so technology can do so much, but the relationships are such a key.
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we can all think of those stories where like that went, I remember Brian, I had a call one time at 8 a.m. from a client of mine, and anyone who knows me knows I'm not an early bird. And this client's seen him for years. And I was like, this is unusual. So I picked up. He was long driving to work, and someone cut him off, and that person cut him. So he honked to avoid an accident. The person cut him off, slowed down, pulled up next to him, pulled a shotgun, and shot at his car.
Wow.
He's a surgeon, this person, ocular surgeon. So really minimum kind of precision. His wife was pregnant, I think 8 months at the time.
Wow.
He called me. I could hear it in his voice, that shaking. He's like, he just told me what to do. He's like, I don't know what to. So reflected back. Okay, you need someone to help think you through this stuff, because right now there's a lot of decisions to be made.
Yeah.
Do we cancel the clinic, have someone come up, etc. Right? To your point, right? Do the same thing. I informed him, hey, you just went through a trauma.
Yeah.
You should look at trauma-informed trauma-informed kind of work in the meantime. And he saw a therapist during that event. We still continued on. He goes, you're my guy from transformation. You've been there for so many years. This person is awesome, but you've been there. I saw him when he was a medical student, right? And now he's got a house, wife, 2 kids, all the stuff, right? And those things, it really reminds me of something you said, Jonathan, in the episode. I really love that intra-development, that we are so honored to witness someone's humanity there, and how can we not reflect and think of our own humanity and the kind of connection we feel, and the things that makes us part of our school practice is to always be developing and learning, and what an intimate way and humbling way to experience that co-development.
Yeah. I love how you said witness right there, Diego, because that's truly what I believe, that we are a witness to someone else's life, and that they're not alone, right? That they have someone who's listened, I really feel like it's about, you have someone on the other end who cares about you and wants to see you succeed. And AI can replace that.
Yeah. But I see a comment from Lori Tom. I'm going to mispronounce her last name, Lori T, which is one of the many great things I've learned from Jonathan and Armel is the art of making an empathetic and tactful observation in coaching. What good time you said, just to be observed, to be witnessed, right? And I think for those coaches in the audience, maybe we can talk a little about coach mastery, coach skill set. There's so many things. I think of my own transition, or people I'm helping mentor, mindset change, right? And I think one of the biggest early on is that you're not really there to fix all the problems. I mean, you could just and say, Diego, what's the right question to ask? And I'm like, okay, frank with you, that's the wrong question to ask. Try silence first, reflect first. If you can't figure that out, then maybe ask a question. Right? Curious your guys' thought on kind of that early part of the coach training, and how to really being there for someone in that professional, unique way.
Yeah, I could start, Brian, if you want to jump in. Then I'd say it really depends where you're at in your coach journey. When you're first starting as a coach, there's a lot to take in. There's a lot. You're looking at the structure of the coaching conversation, really trying to figure out what happens in the beginning of a coaching conversation, what happens in the middle, what happens in the end. And to your point, what's the right question I'm supposed to ask? And so there's a lot of thinking that goes on earlier on in our coaching careers. I've been there. I know that for sure, where you got all your sticky notes up and you're looking like, okay, well, I got this question. I know I'm going to ask this. And my gosh, that question didn't land, even though I had the best question in the world. And so I think it's really just getting to a place where you're not so worried about the outcome and you're able to just be with the client. And when you can get to that place where you're just going to be, where you're not concerned, like, I hope they get what they want by the end of the call. It's just really going back to, at a master level, understanding what is your number one role as a coach. And that's to create a space where awareness and possibility thinking can happen. Because if your client is more aware than they were when they started with you, you brought value to that session. We have to be able to put them in a place where they're at choice. And we have to have a belief as a coach that our clients are whole, that they're competent, that they're capable, that they're resourceful. And that comes from my mentor, Lynn Mikey. But if when you have that belief, it kind of takes the pressure off of you as a coach, that that I believe in this process. I've seen what it's done for others. And if I can naturally take in this coaching process and do a little better each day, it's going to become more a part of you when you show up into your coaching conversations.
Yeah. I'll go way back to, so there was a book that helped kick off coaching in America. It was called The Inner Game of Tennis, believe it or not. And so this book by Timothy Galway, this is 30 years ago, I think, it taught tennis players not to think about playing tennis, just to realize what's happening and be neutral. And he has this term in the book called relaxed concentration. And so when you can get to a state of relaxed concentration, you can actually perform tremendously better in tennis and work. And he has another one about life and business. But when you're coaching more at a master level, you're in a state of relaxed concentration. You're relaxed, but you're concentrating. And when you're relaxed enough, the signals of what to do next come from the client. It doesn't come from a process or something you're figuring out. It just lights up. So for instance, I was just coaching somebody yesterday, and all of a sudden they said this word 3 different times. It lit up to me. This word has been said 3 different times. Tell me about that word. Yep. And so in teaching a class, somebody said, well, what if I don't know the next question? I said, be quiet. Because if you're quiet and let them keep talking, something will come up. They just maybe need to get more out. Or you may need to say, tell me some more about that. Because it should start to appear to you as like, wow, this is the next thing, versus I'm trying to figure out the next thing. When you're figuring it out, you're not present. You're ahead. And so how do you stay present and just let it happen?
This makes me look confident in my coach training, because I had the exact same conversation last week with my students. and I remember being there too, that I go, look, nice fancy worksheets with beautiful worded questions, right? What's your most, I go, but you can't have a personalized plan for someone before you meet them. I go, look at these questions as an idea of the kind of things you're exploring. Yeah. But to your point, Brian, I say the best thing you do is just, if you can listen intently, if your goal is to reflect back, so you're only listening and not trying to formulate a question about it. Can I summarize, or through a simpler conscious reflection, what is being told to me? I go, if you can just focus on that, right? The rest will come. And I'll never forget this. To help really solidify that for me personally, as anyone who knows me or heard this episode before or podcast, I can talk very fast and talk for a very long time. I do a lot of preparation when I coach. I have a little Post-it card. My dog's foot says pause on it. I do my meditation. It's a whole thing, right? My voice is like definitely an octave lower. I really prepare for it. And early on, I was, still in training, and I was working with someone, and they said something. I had a hard time figuring out, to your point, Brian, what do I say next? Right? And I remember one of my mentors said, think of how or what. And I was like, how or what? Nothing really came to mind for a second. And then I took a breath in. I was like, well, if I don't know, I'll say how and figure it out as it goes along, right? Took that breath in. But as I did, this person started talking.
Yes.
And luckily, they did not hear a breath in. And that changed my trajectory, because they said, never in a million years could I have predicted that. It was something that we never talked about, different thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, the most powerful thing was that space and silence. And to me, you said, Jonathan, earlier about, giving them that awareness. I think a lot of coaches early on were so focused on that SMART goal.
Yeah.
Sometimes to the detriment. I go, listen, every other profession gives you SMART goals. Go to a nutritionist, here's a SMART goal, eat calories. Personal trainer, do as many push-ups, right? But so coaching for motivation instead. So I go, instead of looking at SMART goal as the outcome, and let me know your guys' thoughts on this. We're trying to facilitate insight and forward momentum, whatever that looks like. If you had 5 ideas, you're down to 2, that's momentum. If you had awareness of something, that's insight. As long as insight and momentum, that's really your deliverable you're helping your clients achieve, not a SMART goal or a task per se.
I love that, Diego. It's just, I really feel like that's what separates somebody who's more of a competent coach from a masterful coach, is to allow that spaciousness that you're talking about. And if one of my mentors that I had the opportunity when I was going to school to get my master certified coach talked about, your client, their role is the thinker. So don't interrupt their thoughts. Right. And so you really just need to let them be in their thought. And if you ask a question when they're still in their train of thought, then you've lost that thinking. As long as they're moving in the direction that you guys both agreed upon that you were going to go in that conversation, it's not my time to politely interrupt. I need to keep them in their thinking. And, I think that also takes a lot of pressure off of a new coach, that I don't need to be here to solve the problems. I don't need to be here figuring this out. Gosh, what should they be doing next? I need to ask the right question to get them thinking about what could be possible, or sharing what I'm noticing to bring more awareness to the client.
Yeah, and maybe I'll add to some of that. So what's the masterful level? What's some of the components to the masterful level? And one of them is being able to pick up on things that are very subtle. And I remember when I was going for my MCC, so Fran Fisher was my mentor and all this, and she listened to the recording and she said, why is she laughing? The woman I was coaching, she's like, oh, this is so hard. She goes, why is she laughing and saying it's so hard? There is a discrepancy there. You need to pick up that subtle difference and say, tell me why you're laughing, but saying it's so hard. So the very next call that I had with her, I said, why is that? Because it's my defense mechanism. And we had this whole conversation because I picked up against and so the masterful level is, so you're so relaxed. You pick up on things that can be very, very subtle, but they can go very deep. And the second piece that I would say is really important from mastery level is going deeper. So it's about who they are, not what they want. They'll come in saying what they want, but then you tune into some things like the tie to their values and their passion and their desire. I was coaching a woman yesterday who just started crying, and her main goal was, I just want to work on my purpose statement. But when I said, why is this important to you? And we dug deeper, she just started crying, because it's a deeper feel, which is going to drive her to do much more than just set a goal, a SMART goal, ultimately.
Yeah. And sorry, Jonathan, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just in total agreement.
Yeah. And there's something too that you guys said earlier about not worry about the outcome, right? And I think there's something that this is what someone, and I said this before in a previous episode, but you reminded me of this, John. I remember walking back from my triad trainings. We're still in person. We go back to the main room, and who was supervising me at the time or mentoring me at the time, she pulled me aside as we were walking back and was like, you don't have to solve their problems anymore. It's not your job anymore.
That's right.
Right. And that also flipped the script for me, one of those moments, right? Because it might seem counterintuitive to those who aren't coaches or early in coaches, but hear me out here. We are neither responsible for our clients' failures nor successes.
That's right.
That's a double-edged sword. It's beautiful on one and hard on the other, but you are there to provide the tools and the workspace for them to do it. But when a client says, "Thank you so much, coach," I say, if you thank me once, you got to thank yourself at least 10 times. I didn't go to the gym this week like you did. I didn't do those things. So in a way, you can take that pressure off of doing the right stuff, and you can focus on that fully being present. And people who are not sure of this, I go, listen, think about your lifetime. If you see someone over a year or two, which is too long of a time, but let's say you know, life has ups and downs, right? You're just witnessing those ups and downs. So it's not that they're a bad person or stuff. They might just had things in life also just kind of culminated and they're feeling particularly stuck. And the longer you do that, you realize it's not it's a phase or transition they're going through. If we can really be humble enough to say, we're not here, I'm not responsible for your failures nor your success. That's right. It's really on you. How can I empower you? That's a real different mindset to be present in that way we should as coaches.
When I'll add to that, I'd say it comes down to value, right? Why would somebody pay you all this money to coach you? So when you come into coaching, you think, I need to tell them to do something or give them information or give them something that's valuable, right? And so I teach new coaches, I said, what is value? So why would somebody pay you to coach them? They said, well, it's because I do this or I do this, right? And it's not. It's they tell you what the value is. Here's what I want from this coach call. If you can help me get to that direction, that's very valuable to them. So the more masterful you are, helping them define what the value is and then helping stay on track to get it, that's where the value is. It's not me saying, okay, I've coached Grammy Award winners, I've coached state governors, I've coached Olympic athletes' families. I've not done any of those, but I know how to pull it out of them to say, what's your value, and help them find it. But you think as a human, you think of all the other professions that I've got to deliver something. The real value in it is helping them get to the place where they find their answers.
Yeah. And that's what's empowering, like you were talking about, Diego, is when, they are able to come up with their own answers. And then in the moment you get to affirm them as a coach. And that's what I love about coaching too, is you could ask the questions. And we all know as coaches, there is a time and place where your client is genuinely stuck and they don't know how to move forward. And then we can come in as a coach and ask permission. What can I share what I know around this? If you have the license or the background in that area, but it's always important to say this, hey, can we brainstorm? I'd love to just share what just popped in my head. All right, now what's popping in your mind? And then what the beautiful thing that happens then is you get to affirm them on all these ideas that they didn't have originally, but now the creative juices are going and now they have ideas. And so that's empowering. And so when clients can leave knowing that they are capable, this goes back to all we know about self-efficacy and the self-determination theory, with being, having relatedness, being competent and having a sense of autonomy, they're more likely to move forward and change.
Yeah. There's the analogy I use sometimes for my clients. I go, listen, coaching is not turning in homework assignments.
Yeah.
It's study hall.
Yeah. That's right.
You're learning.
And to me, especially if you're an external processor, which means you can think out loud, I definitely am. And here's the reality about a little neuroscience backing is that thinking your internal monologue is a different circuit that you talk out loud than when you listen. You're engaging different circuits, right? And think about if you're walking different paths, you literally see different points of view.
Yeah.
Right. So coaching helps by this external process method. And so here's another analogy I kind of come up with is that I like tinkering. I love messing with my skates and my rollerblades and trying new bushings and, for a while I was in an apartment that was a little smaller. And so I had my little makeshift work was basically a corner of the kitchen thing with some things over it. And I'm just like dropping nuts and bolts everywhere, right? But then we get to another place that have this big workbench. I can lay it all out there and see the big picture and more easy to manipulate. I can still do it in the small workbench, but it's much harder because I can only work on so much at a time. Yeah. Your internal monologue causes that rumination. You're kind of stuck in a small little space, but you come to a workshop and mixing metaphors here. I say, listen, I'm the Home Depot. I give you tools, but you're the craftsman for your own journey.
Love
And
that.
so we're come here. Hey, how do you use this tool? Well, here's how you use it safely. You know, if you want to build this, oh, Jonathan, here's some resources that may help you. But you're trying to teach someone to be a carpenter how to make a chair.
Right.
And each person has a different tool, different thing. And last time I reflect back about the brainstorming, it kind of ties back a little bit to not giving the answer. Another learning point early on. I remember I had a client who wanted to work on weight loss. I was working for a company that did weight loss, and he's talking to me how he loves the outdoors and wants to work on weight loss. And I'm thinking in my head, like, go on a hike, right? And I was like, well, I know the training said don't tell him to do, but like, I am sure internally that if I just, you know. So I tell coaches, listen, run your experiments and see what happens, and you'll realize the training is correct, right? So I remember I was like, oh, you know, have you thought about, you mentioned you live in this beautiful part of the country. Have you thought about hike? Oh, okay, right? Versus when you're patient and let someone come to that. And so I tell the coach, if you really want to give advice, like, first of all, notice that.
Yep.
Then be silent. If you really can't stop, if you want to do experiments, first brainstorm before you give advice. And then you'll recognize how infrequently your answer was the one that made the difference.
That's right. Yeah. Very cool. If you tell somebody what to do, there's a really good chance they won't do it. If they tell you what they want to do, there's a really good chance they will. Yep. So the key in coaching is you help them get it out and say, well, here's what I want to do. Here's what comes next. Great. But if you go tell them, they not only won't do it, sometimes they won't come back because they're like, I don't want to do that thing. My coaches tell me to do this stuff. It's very opposite.
Yeah. And Jonathan, something you said about creativity, if I can tag on to this, I say this a lot too. I'm like that, you know, when someone's faced a problem, don't see the answer, it's not immediate off it. Well, how could I possibly quit smoking or figure out how to get a promotion, whatever that thing is, right? And problem solving involves creativity.
Yep.
And so I go, brainstorm is a great tool in coaching because it involves so much creativity, adds a little playfulness often, right? And the way I do it, you know, if you guys have feedback from me, I tell my clients, look, we're going to play a game of ping pong. I'm going to give an idea. You're going to give an idea. I'm going to give you an idea. And most importantly, we are not going to stop to evaluate or judge the ideas as we say them. Right? I go, you might even hear me say something that sounds outlandish, but that's okay. We're just trying to get creative here. Right. And often when we first do this, they'll, you know, I'll throw an idea out there, go, well, I can't. I'm like, judgment, right? Notice how much we judge. We haven't tried it, right? And so then eventually I'll do something really outlandish, like, okay, they want to work out. Well, you should organize a 5K for your neighborhood. They're like, I can just walk my neighbor Jeff. That seems a little more reasonable. But it really adds that creative aspect that's often missing in problem solving. And Jonathan, if you see all those different possibilities, there's a lot of ways to improve. Actually, I have to pick one or try a few of them and see what works for me versus I had no ideas beforehand.
Yeah. It's such an experiment, right? You're just experimenting. We're just trying. We're letting go of being right. And I think that goes back to what Brian was talking about, that when you create that safe place where, like you talked about too, Diego, that unconditional positive regard, that no matter what your client is saying, they know they're not going to be judged. And it's what allows that creativity is like, I'm not afraid of being wrong. So I'm just going to share what is the first thing that comes in my mind. And we hold that space. We hold that container as coaches in that conversation that allows our clients to do so.
Yeah. And man, the time is flying by. I guess time flies by when you're having fun. We got to the top of the hour. Definitely have to have both you guys back on if you don't mind. But I would say what maybe nugget of advice, or what kind of would you say is someone's going from, okay, they've already been a coach for a while, they're really working to that mastery level, right? So we talked about a lot of different big concepts. What are some of the things that we haven't discussed yet that, you know, whether you talk about in your courses or like, what are the things that you recommend, like advanced mastery things to think about that hasn't been talked on the podcast for all our coaches listening?
You want to start, John?
I guess what pops in my mind right in this moment is trusting your intuition. You're going to trust that so much more is the more coaching you do, and to not be afraid of just, hey, can I share what just came up for me? And that, you can even ask permission, but then share it without Why I don't know what they're going to say, or have that attitude or that fear that comes with that. So I say that's a big part of stepping into, because a lot of the times when you're sensing something, which is what happens more at a mastery level, is you're using your senses. You're tuned in. One of my mentors talks about think of yourself as you're literally plugged into the electrical outlet that's them, and you're sensing as they're talking, and you're experiencing, and then you're just feeding back to them what just happened. And so I would say that's a big part.
Yeah, I'll just add, what we spend a good amount of time on in our Masterful Coach CU is awareness, right? That
Yep.
one word means so much. And so number one is the awareness for you as a coach. Are you really tuning in to what's happening and becoming aware of it? And then are you helping them become aware of things they've never become aware of before? Because awareness is the first step to change.
Yep.
If you don't become aware of something, you can't change. Now, if you're aware of it, that doesn't mean you're going to change, but the coach's responsibility is to continue to bring things to awareness that they can say, yep, that's something I need to change or work on or adjust, or I don't need to. But until they're aware of new things that are going on inside of them, maybe inhibiting them or causing them to do things, if you don't bring that out, they can continue to work on band-aids on things or minuscule things without getting to the place that drives from a deeper level. So I would say, and there's a lot we could cover just on that one topic, awareness, but it's a big one.
Yeah. Each of those are volumes in themselves, right? Of books. Yeah. I would say, if I could add, Jonathan, you reminded me of something about, in a sense, how I mentioned earlier, reflecting back, right? That we are saying these things without attached to them, because it's almost, I see some earlier coaches do a lot of qualifiers for the reflections before and after. Sounds like what I'm hearing is that family is really important to you. Did I get that right? And I think it comes from a place that seems gracious, right? Because we don't want to put words in our client's mouth. I don't want to speak for them. But there's two components. One sounds like to me, and who am I to say what it sounds like? Right? No, I am coach. But also, I think more deeper, actually, or maybe as deep, is that it just dilutes the reflection down. But it sounds like to me that your family is important to get that right, versus your family is paramount. And the example I give is I was, again, working for this company that most of my clients, 3/4 probably weight loss. And then it's inevitable family comes up in terms of values, right? And so I remember talking to this one guy early on, and he was like, what's driving this? Well, I have a kid, he's 5 years old, and I'm getting kind of winded playing with him. My knees are kind of hurting. I want to be that cool dad, throw a pigskin around, be there at his wedding, cool grandpa, I'm doing all for you, boy. It's like, your family is paramount, right? So, right. Later in the afternoon, I had a client. It was a mom this time. I think she had I want to say 3 kids, if I'm not mistaken. And then I have to do the same reflection. I said, your family is important to you. And she paused and she goes, yeah, but I've been changing diapers the last 4 years. I want to do this for me. I think so many coaches are worried about being right or not. I go, that reflection, was it right or wrong? It helped both of them gain instant momentum. So imagine your reflection is like when you say you have a friend who can't decide something, and you say head or tail, and you're really just looking at the reaction to head or tail more than head or tail is a thing. That's what your reflection is. It's just a reaction to that helps you get into what it is. So it might seem I tell my clients, listen, I'm going to reflect back. By the way, you can tell your clients exactly what it still works, right? When you know how insulin works to stop lowering your blood sugar. And so if they can understand how that reflection hits them, you can feel more confident just saying it, because I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just letting you hear a version of this, and you can say, yeah, it's exactly it. Kind of like this, or not at all. That's one of my things to say, just less qualifiers, and it's going to feel weird, guys, when you say it at first. Like who am I to just throw it out there? Yeah. When you're right, they think you're a mind reader. When you're wrong, they get more insights. And I said, well, clients are going through so much work. There's not much room left to analyze your performance.
Yeah. They just make me think of right. Oh, go ahead, Brian. I was just going to say, Diego's just making me think of less is more. Yeah. Less is more.
Well, and say you should do about 20% of the talking and the client about 80%. But it also comes down to confidence, right? People hire you as a coach because they're confident that they know who they are. They know how they have a way to help me. If you sound timid in the way that you respond or all the qualifiers, it sounds like, do they really know what they're doing versus, hey, let me put this out there. Just be confident. Go with what you know and let them react and respond, and then you'll get there. And it's a big deal. The confidence in your voice, the confidence in the way you do things is a big deal in coaching.
Yeah. And well, I know we're almost top of the hour here, but before maybe go over a little bit, if you guys don't mind, for a few minutes. Speaking of all this, the reason I got to know you guys is because you guys really not just teach, but really create a new program to help more masterful level coaching out there. And I'm all about like high quality. We're always learning, right? Could you tell us briefly kind of how this idea came to be, how you guys started this, and a little bit about what you've developed?
Yeah, Brian, why don't you kick it off? I'll jump in.
Sure. I think it's really interesting is we both went for our MCCs. There's not a lot of MCC is through the International Coaching Federation. It's the kind of the master certified level, which is a pretty high challenge to get. And we found there's not many people out there or courses that teach you that MCC, how to get there. There's not many of them in the world. I think there's 1,300 out of 60,000 coaches. And so as we were trying to get through this, we're like, well, number one, how do you find somebody to help you do it? Number two, it was a stretch. It was one of the hardest things for me to get because you have to unlearn some of the structure that you know to get into the deeper levels of coaching. And so through that, I think I learned a lot myself. Jonathan did, but not speaking for him, but we also have a ton of experience working with coaches, training coaches, teaching coaches, and a lot of them want to get better. And we thought, well, we're pretty experienced and I think talented at coaching and training. And we work really well together. So we said, why don't we put together a way to help coaches, at least through the CE process, to get masterful level education so they can grow their skills and help more people ultimately.
What Brian said, I will definitely say that is, I'm in agreement there. And we just have a passion for helping people. Like Brian was saying, we work very well together. We've worked at various companies together and had a chance to work with coaches to just make greater impact. I think that's what it really comes down to, where our Brian and my heart is to help change lives for the better. And if we can impact coaches to strengthen their coaching and be able to coach at a deeper level where you move from transactional to transformational, you're changing lives. And that's really what it's all about. That's where our heart's at. And so we're hosting a free CE this next Thursday, which we'll get some information out, which it'll be at 1 o'clock Eastern. And is it 8 o'clock Eastern, Brian? Hold me honest here. I believe it's 8 o'clock Eastern.
Yep.
So anyway, it's if you're credentialed, if you're not credentialed, we'd love for you to be a part of it. We're looking at what is masterful coaching in that CE. So just want to invite those who want to be a part of it. We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Where can we find out? Because I want to be on there, right? So I want to go to that CE. So where can people find out about how to access this or sign up or follow you guys?
Our website is twomastercoaches.com. So you can go there, and right at the top, it actually says the free what is masterful coaching training. And so just sign up. And then when you're done, you actually get your CEs. But even more importantly, you'll learn what is masterful coaching and what are some ways to start getting there, because it's our obligation to keep getting better. It's interesting, Diego. There's a guy named Neil Peart. I don't know do you know who Neil Peart was?
Oh, yeah.
Best drummer in the world. All the drummers said, who's the best drummer in the world? Is Neil Peart from Rush. And what Neil Peart says, when you become masterful, you're obligated to get even better. You don't just stop. So no matter what level you're at as a coach, you're obligated to get even better. And so John and I practice that, and we want to help stretch coaches in that as well.
I love that. That's, my dad always told me you wouldn't trust a doctor who last book you read was 10 years ago, right? Right. The science is always changing. We're always learning more. And there's so much to learn, right? And I'd be honest with you, I'm really curious to learn what structures I have to unlearn to become a more masterful coach. So I will definitely be there on Thursday. It's an honor to have you both in the community. To all people on Vibely, we're going to have some events together, these amazing coaches. And anyone who's not on Vibely, we have a discount code for you. If you do podcast 20, help you get started for the first 3 months of service, get you a little discount there. Brian and Jonathan, thank you so much, not just for this hour, but I truly mean it, for what you've done for people like me and everyone else to be part of this growing community. And if we can all do our job to explain what coaching is to our communities, not let other ones do it for you, but we are the ones who must lead the charge to explain and show you the transformation versus the transactional nature of this. That's what can let our profession really grow. So be proud of what you do as much as you can, and always keep on learning. Brian and Jonathan, really thank you about my heart. It's been a really, really wonderful episode. And the chat is going, a lot of great comments I'll share with you afterwards, but I have to go. But thank you everyone to our listeners, and we'll
Thank you
see
for
you all
having
very
us
soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.